This video considers how we can compare between a monopoly business and a perfectly competitive business. What we're aiming to do here is to show on one diagram both a monopoly and a perfectly competitive firm, and therefore to clearly see the differences in their impacts on consumers. So we start with our axes, pound sign and outputs, and we draw on the cost curves AC and MC. Both monopolies and perfectly competitive firms have cost curves that look like this, so we can keep these curves the same for both businesses. The thing that we're going to change is the nature of demand, and we know that a perfectly competitive firm has a horizontal demand curve because the firm's a price taker. We're going to draw the perfectly competitive firm in the long run, which means our demand curve looks like this. It intersects AC at the lowest point, meaning that when we profit maximize, we produce at quantity Q. We label it QPC for quantity of perfectly competitive firm, or quantity perfect competition. And we know that the price is PPC, the price of the perfectly competitive firm. We then draw on the demand curve for a monopoly, which we know is downward sloping because the firm is a price maker. It has some control over prices because it's the dominant firm in the market. We draw our D equals AR curve and our marginal revenue curve, which is twice as steep. The monopoly is going to produce where MC equals MR, which is QM for monopoly. And we find the price for consumers by continuing this dotted line up to where it meets our demand curve, giving us PM, the price for the monopoly. We don't need to draw on the costs here, the cost of the monopoly or the perfectly competitive firm, because we're only interested in comparing the impact on consumers. Consumers care about prices, they don't care about the costs that businesses are paying, and so we just need to label the price under perfect competition and the price under monopoly. What we can see is that consumers are worse off if the market is a monopoly rather than a perfectly competitive market. And they're worse off for two reasons. The first reason is the price is higher, PM is higher than PC. The second reason is that the quantity of the goods sold is lower, QM is lower than QPC. We can therefore shade in an area of welfare loss. It's this triangle here. All this is a diagrammatic representation of the fact that consumers are worse off for those two reasons. It shows graphically the fact that consumers are paying a higher price and able to buy fewer products. This shaded area, the welfare loss, is the key analysis point of this diagram. You could use it in an exam style question to compare monopoly with a perfectly competitive firm to show that under a monopoly consumers are worse off because they incur this welfare loss.